This week, the HPT is in its own backyard at the Canterbury Park Card Casino in Shakopee, Minnesota, just outside of the Twin Cities. The place to play in the land of 10,000 lakes built an impressive prize pool of over $473,000. The field is now down to the Elite Six with almost $120,000 going to our last man standing. A couple of familiar faces sit among the Elite Six, and one is looking for redemption and the lead in the HPT's Player of the Year race. The others are looking to add their names to the HPT history book and forever be known as an HPT champion.
Any weakness that was even there in the final 10 or 11 kind of found their way out, which was disappointing. I wish some of that would have stayed around.
My tournament experience this weekend was fantastic. It took a little convincing to get here. I told the wife I'm not going to play in any satellites, I'm just going to buy right in. She asked me immediately how much it was, so I avoided the question for like 4 days.
I live by this in my tournaments. It's not the hands you play, it's the ones you throw away.
My approach to this, like any other tournament, is to spend the time watching each player as they're playing hands.
I know the one guy I might avoid, the guy with a giant stack. There's one fellow that's capable of dominating me anytime I'm in there.
I'm the chip leader right now. I have about 5 million chips. With 6 left, hopefully, we can take this down.
They come from all walks of life, each with a story to tell. All they need is a chip and a chair. It's an open casting call for those who love the game. This ain't your weekend home game. This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face. You with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game. Talk trash all you want. To me, it's all the same. You won't leave with much when you come in second place. I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello and welcome to the HPT. I'm Chris Hansen, and the man to my left is Fred Bevel. And Fred, we continue Season 8 of the HPT basically in our own backyard. We are at the Canterbury Card Casino in Shakopee, Minnesota, just outside of the Twin Cities. Once again, our friends here in the land of 10,000 lakes have built a prize pool that could change lives. And after 2 days of poker, we are down to our final 6.
Canterbury is without question the place to play when you're in Minnesota. And with the competition in this field, it's proven that Minnesotans take their poker very seriously. Over $473,000 in the prize pool, and almost $120,000 of it is going to our next HPT champion. We have a dominant chip leader who's been in control since the early rounds of day 2, and a couple of familiar faces that are always fun to see when we're out on the road.
Gary Lambert is making his second final table this season and could take the lead in the Player of the Year race. Now, we've seen Doc a lot on the HPT, and his wife Kelly are practically family. But the man to beat is known simply as Nas.
Nas is as solid as they come. He took the chip lead early in day 2 and hasn't looked back. He's aggressive, he's cunning, and he knows how to play the big stack. Chris, he's going to be tough to beat.
All right, let's meet Nas and a couple of the other players and then get to the felt for the HPT action.
Here's Dr. Gary Lambert, Quincy, Illinois. Chip stacks just right at 900,000. I'm a chiropractor and a recreational poker pro.
Well, my name is Nazar, and people here call me Nas. I'm currently a student. I'm getting my MBA in organizational management.
Ed Janicic, live in South Minneapolis. I'm a retired software project manager.
Every final table has its own kind of little makeup or personality. We have a very mature table. A lot of the younger, more aggressive style players, as we all know, the game changing monthly, were eliminated early on. So we have a very mature table. I was almost kicked out of the casino last week. Well, here's what happened. A lot of people bring lucky rabbits and coins as card protectors. I bring my wife, Kelly. So I got her on top of the table, on top of my cards, and the floor came over and said, this can't happen. And he said, you put her up there one more time, you're gonna have to leave. We got past that, I took my lucky coin out and we moved on.
Well, you know, my strategy at the final table really is not to have a strategy right now. I don't know what the other guys have planned out. You know, they're all pretty much anywhere from short stack to like a little over short stack. So my strategy is pretty much to play according to how they play. I woke up at 5 in the morning today because I had a test to take. So I finished the test at 8 in the morning and I came right here.
My fantasy when I was planning on retiring was to retire and play a lot of online poker and some live poker. Black Friday came right before all of my retirement, and it had made me shift my plans, and I started playing live tournaments immediately after that. I started coming down here. Black Friday impacted me in that it forced me to play more live.
And here is the prize money that we're looking at for tonight. $118,000 will go to our champion, Fred, officially the largest poker tournament in Minnesota poker history.
Everyone at this final table guaranteed to go home with a little over $23,000. And here is the chip counts as we start this final table. Naz is the clear leader with over $5 million in chips.
If you were betting Naz right now, you'd be getting 5-2 if he was a horse running this race here at Canterbury. Let's get to our final table and award our newest HPT championship here at Canterbury Card Casino.
Blind starting off at 15 and 30,000 with a 5K ante. Some familiar faces at this final table. Doc Lambert making his second final table out of the last 3 events. Pretty impressive run.
Naz is a very familiar face here at Canterbury Card Casino in the Twin Cities. Everyone in this room knows that he has the game to take this down, and Fred, with his huge chip lead, he's wasting no time at this final table.
And Naz has really been in control of this event since the beginning of day 2. Took the chip lead early and has not looked back. He's going to raise it to 75,000 with King Jack suited.
Ed folds, and over to Eric. He's got Jack 8. He folds. And now to Dan. Suited Ace 7.
Okay, thanks.
Dan's on the button with a suited ace. Odds are he's going to see the flop, and he is going to make the call. And this is Paul. Paul's going to fold.
And over to Gary Doc Lambert. He's got Ace Deuce in the big blind.
Only 45,000 for Gary to see a flop. 225,000 in the pot now. Got to think he's going to make the call. Gary Lambert, also, little known fact, the most tattooed doctor in medical history.
Wow, now that is a record to have.
Gary makes the expected call from the big blind, and we're going to see our first flop of the day.
And Gary is going to check. Here comes the flop. It's 7-6-5 rainbow.
Daniel has flopped top pair, has the top kicker.
Everyone's checking. And so we're going to see the turn. And the turn is a deuce.
Well, now Daniel has the nut flush draw to go with his top pair. Gary's picked up the deuce.
95,000. He's going to bet it like he's got something. 95,000. Original raiser Naz gets out of the way. Now over to Daniel. Playing this hand on the button with a suited ace.
And Daniel here with a nut flush draw and top pair. Might want to be considering a raise here.
The original pre-flop raiser is now out of the hand. That was Naz. And now you're battling the big blind. So you'd think out of the random hands that the big blind would have, maybe your top pair and that nut flush draw right now is sitting pretty.
He is just going to flat call here.
And so we'll see the river. And the river pairs the board with another 5. And Daniel has the best hand with the top pair. Let's see if Gary's going to bet again.
I could bet, but I'm going to check.
Gary checks. Dan checks behind. Gary shows his 2 pair with 5s and deuces, the ace kicker, and for some reason, Dan folded his hand. He did have ace 7 of clubs, right?
He did indeed. Dan just folded the best hand to Gary. I'm surprised he didn't table his hand just to let the cards do the speaking. Well, one hand, one mistake so far at this final table. Doc Lambert is the beneficiary of that mistake. He's going to stack almost 300,000 in chips.
Wow. All right, Paul from Champlin, Minnesota is going to be first to act, the 40-year-old.
I'm going to need to card him. He is the best looking 40-year-old ever. He's in software sales, so probably doesn't have a lot of exposure to the sun.
A lot of time inside in front of a computer. Action is now on Nas with 6 deuce.
And Nas getting ready to put some chips out there. He's playing position, and this is how he got the chip lead and just maintained the chip lead all day.
Now Nas is only 29, and Fred, he looks a lot older than his 29 years. That's what the game of poker will do to you. Ed gets out of the way. Action is on Eric.
Eric is no stranger to an HPT final table. We first met him earlier in Season 8 at the Starkey Hearing Foundation fundraiser we did with the NFL and the Starkey Hearing Foundation. It was a lot of fun.
Interesting enough, though, he didn't make the final table. It was his wife that was sitting at that final table.
The beautiful Marina. Eric wakes up with rockets here.
It's an overrated hand that very seldom holds up.
Only in your game, my friend.
And Eric is going to raise to 140,000. And now Dan will be next with King Queen offsuit.
Well, you have a raise and a re-raise in front of you. King Queen shrinks up pretty quick in this spot.
All right, still waiting on Dan Conway from Grand Rapids, Michigan. 71 years old. He's retired. With my poker losses quickly adding up, Fred, I don't know if I'm going to be able to retire at the age of 81, 71. But Daniel gets in the pot with his King Queen. He calls now back to Nas. Nas folds, and so we'll be heads up with Eric and Dan. And here comes the flop. Flop is 6-4-9 rainbow. That's a great looking flop for pocket aces.
And you can see Eric is starting to eye Dan Stack here, wondering how much he can get out of him.
Neither one of these two players have a lot of chips sitting in front of them. Eric started with 685,000 at this final table. Dan had just over 800,000, and now Eric is all in.
Easy fold for Daniel in this spot. He has nothing but king high. Those quickly go into the muck, and Eric shows everybody how to play pocket aces right there.
More poker from Canterbury Card Casino when we come back. Welcome back to the HPT. Let's meet the rest of our players at our final table.
My name's Eric Worre from Chanhassen, Minnesota, so right locally. I work in the network marketing industry. I've done that for 24 years.
My name is Daniel Conway. I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah, I'm Paul Ratajczak. I live in Champlin, Minnesota. I'm in software sales, and I have about 1.265 million in chips.
If it's super tight, I'll open it up because I still have enough to cripple 4 out of the other 5 players. If they're normal, what they've been playing, then I'll just wait. I've still got enough. I don't need to go crazy. I got enough to be able to pick my spot and get it in good. So you know, I'll push them around if they're tight, and if they're not, then I'll wait.
Poker stands out as a possibility for, well, first of all, it's a lot of fun to play poker, and who knows, it might be monetarily a fun thing to do too. So we'll just keep that in mind as we go along. I have lots of hobbies. I've always had lots of hobbies to do. This, I wouldn't call this a hobby, but it's just a fun thing to do, like other hobbies. So I'll never become a professional, that much I know.
My biggest accomplishment in my life is obviously my daughters, my twin daughters who are 8 years old, and my 6-year-old, Claudia, Elias, and Olivia, that coupled with my wife. I mean, they are really my support system. They're kind of like your happy place, if you will, when it gets rough in the tournament, or it gets, you know, kind of, you get irritated with how somebody's playing, or, you know, you feel like you're playing well but you're still not accumulating chips. It's always nice to have that place, and I think that's kind of the stemming success and how you can play this game and get somewhere with it. So.
Well, Nas is still our chip leader with just under 5 million chips in play, but both Gary and Eric have increased the size of the stack sitting in front of them. However, Fred, with 50% of the chips in play, Nas has quite a lead on the rest of the field.
167 big blinds in Nas' stack. He's in cruise control right now. Blinds continuing at 15 and 30,000 with a 5K ante, and action will start on our chip leader.
Nas has got so many chips at this point. Go on over to the Mall of America. Go walk around the food court, and then come on back. Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. About a 20, 25-minute car ride from where we sit right now here in Shakopee, Minnesota, on the south side of the Twin Cities.
Naz raises it up to 75,000 with an off-suited ace-9. It's folded around to Eric.
And C4 folds. We're now on Dan in the 5. And C5.
He will fold over to Paul.
Over to 75. He's in the small.
Paul took 10th place in his only other try at an HPT final table. Paul calls the raise with Queen 6 of diamonds. Paul plans on using some of his prize money for a 10-year anniversary trip.
Very nice. Congratulations on 10 years of marital bliss.
Gary also calls the raise.
3 players.
So 3 players will see this flop together. Here we go. The flop is Ace, King, Jack.
Well, both Paul and Gary have gut shot straight draws. Nas hits top pair.
And everyone's chicken. And the turn is a 4. And Paul is going to be first to go.
The turn doesn't help either player out. Nas still has the lead with top pair.
But Paul is betting. 140,000 is the bet over to Gary. Probably a sure fold coming from Gary Doc Lambert from Quincy, Illinois.
Not so fast, my tall, slinky friend. I can't imagine Gary just calling here. If he's going to make a play, it's going to have to be a big one.
Well, there's 2 things in this world I don't know anything about. One is poker and the other is chiropractic health. These are both things that Gary knows a heck of a lot about.
Women. You forgot women. There's
Oh,
actually
that's
3
right,
things.
3.
I'm going to fold.
Yeah, there we go. Gary is going to fold. Maybe I do know a thing or two after all. Not about the chiropractors or the women, but maybe a little more about the poker. Over to Nas.
And Nas with top pair is not going to go anywhere here. Makes the easy call.
This pot now over $500,000 in chips as Paul and Nas do battle. Paul trying to convince Nas that he's got a bigger ace. Here comes the river. It's a 5 of clubs.
Paul misses the gut shot, and Nas has the best hand.
Paul is first to act, and it doesn't look like a check is coming. He has to write the end of this novel if he wants Nas to read the whole book. I don't think that's enough.
175, definitely not enough to get top pair off the hand here.
Bet black ball. 100.
Nas is doing the math. Let's see, 175,000 to call. The pot's now going to be over 800,000. Yeah, I make the call. And Paul says, yeah, you're good. That was kind of a dumb bet there on the river, wasn't it? Nas will take the chips, and Fred, Nas's chip lead is getting larger. He is back over 5 million in chips. The pedal firmly planted to the floor. No slowing down for Nas.
Blinds continuing at 15 and 30,000. This time the action will be on Ed.
Ed's 63 years old. He lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
I can say
He's a software consultant. Probably has done a little business with Paul throughout his career.
I got a little real estate over here.
I think it'll be all right. Thank you.
I've often thought I would make a very good consultant.
Open invitation.
For what, I don't know. But I think I have a lot of knowledge that I would like to tell people.
75.
I don't even want to ask what that would be. This show is only an hour long.
Ed's going to make it 75,000, and action is now over to Eric.
Eric has ace 10.
Eric is 48. Mr. Warry lives in Chanhassen, Minnesota.
Over to Dan now in the 5 seat.
Action now over to Dan. He's going to fold. We're back to Paul, the software salesman. He is going to fold. Over to the chiropractor. He's going to fold. And back to the student. Our chip leader, Nas. He plans on using his winnings for tuition and probably going to even hang up the game of poker. He's got bigger and better plans with his life. Sees poker as just a hobby and has no desire to make it anything more than that.
Well, it looks like he has a desire to call here out of the big blind.
I'm gonna raise.
Or maybe make a big raise with Queen 6.
He is playing the player here. Ed has been playing pretty close to the vest all day long, especially after making the final 6. He's going to try to get Ed off of this pot pre-flop.
Nas making that bet, probably thinking only a premium hand is going to make the call, or if Ed comes over the top, he's going to know he's definitely got something. When you're messing around with this big stack, you better be ready to play for all of them.
And it looks like Ed is going to make the call with his offsuited ace-9. And we can see Nas scratching the chin going, okay, well, he didn't go away.
There's something there.
Hopefully I hit this.
I'm guessing Nas is giving him more credit than ace-9 offsuit. I guarantee you that. All right, let's see the flop. And the flop is 4-8 queen. It is ace free for Ed, but Nas did flop top pair.
And whether Nas hit this flop or not, I'm guessing he was going to bet either way. 325,000 is the bet, and a quick fold from Ed.
And call Nas the steamroller because he is flattening this final table as we speak. More poker when we come back on the HPT next. Welcome back to the HPT just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's Chris Hansen and Fred Bevel, and this is the home of the Twins, the Wild, the Vikings, and the Timberwolves, and also the home of Nas in this monster chip stack.
Nas, the only winner out of all those teams you just named. He's sitting with just under $6 million in chips, 57% of the chips in play, almost 200 big blinds. Wow, it's good to be Nas right now.
All those down pointing arrows, and that one big green one keeps moving in the right direction. Eric's first act blinds are still 15 and 30,000 as we play for 118K tonight on the HPT.
All right, Chris, the votes have just been tallied. Eric wins the Best Hanky Award, or whatever that thing is on his coat pocket there.
Fred, I believe you're referring to his pocket square in the left breast chest pocket.
75.
Okay.
Not surprising you don't know what that is. You're the person who thought that coleslaw was an entire food group.
I did.
Eric raises with pocket jacks, and he's got trouble to his left. The second time that we've seen aces at this final table. Eric had them last time, and this time it's Dan with them.
This could get dangerous for Eric here. And he is going to take it up to 200,000 with his pocket aces. And this should clear out the rest of the table.
Ball goes away. Doc looks down at 7-4. He's going to go away.
You are going to go away, right, Doc?
Go away, Doc.
He's not going to play this, right?
You don't want none of this, Ricky Bobby.
Over to Nas, the chip leader. Easy fold.
And now to Ed. Ed looks down at Jack 6, which is important because we now know that one of Eric's jacks are gone.
4-seat of Eric.
Leaving just one more jack in the deck, and Eric is inquiring about the chip stack of Daniel.
It doesn't matter. I'm all in.
And he is going to go all in, and Dan is going to make the easy call. And we're going to see aces go against jacks here. And as you pointed out, my friend, one of the jacks are dead, so Eric's going to be drawing to the case jack.
7-4 would have been good. If I knew they had those, I would have called with my 7-4. You know it's going to good luck, guys.
Right now is your 5-seat of Dan with his aces. Brad, if you would please do me a favor, show us the flop.
And here we go. The flop is Jack Deuce 9.
The case jack comes in the window, and now it is Daniel hoping to find one of the two aces left in this hand.
What a flop for Eric.
Okay, can I please see the turn card?
There we go. The turn card
Turn card
is an 8 of hearts, and so now Dan's down to a 5% chance to find one of the last two aces and stay alive at this final table.
Okay, let's go ahead and see the river card.
And the river is a 10. That's going to do it. Dan and his pocket aces are hitting the bricks. Man, I hate pocket aces. I mean, I just despise those two cards. You're going to hear from Dan, and I'm guessing he might share the same sentiment I do.
I got off to a bad start. I was a pretty good stack, and I wasted a few chips to begin with, just out of a new time experience. So I wish I had slowed off a little bit better. But I had cards to play with and never won anything. So
Dan leaves with $23,000 in cash from his final table experience.
More money to put with the poker stash. I love that he calls it a poker stash.
At least he didn't
All right,
slow
action
play
is
it.
now on Gary.
I'm going to
He's got
raise
ace
Think like
5.
your head for a second.
I'm going to go to 80.
80,000.
Now it's an
Okay, it's a raise
80,000
now
chip
after
raise with ace
raise by
5,
the
and
1 seat to
just to his
80,000.
left we have the
Gary
chip
raises
leader
to
with a wired
80,000.
pair.
Over to Nas now in seat number 2.
And Nas is just going to call.
Nas makes the call. A fold by the 3 seat of Ed.
Ed
We move
folds
over
now over to
Gary,
Eric.
Seat number 4.
He comes back with that big suck out on the last hand
And a
with
fold.
Jack 10, and that gets folded.
All right, let's go
And
ahead
so we're
and see the
heads
flop,
up with
please.
Gary and Nas. And the flop is 4-3-4 with a couple of clubs.
Well, Nas has the best of it with his wired 5s. Gary picks up a gut shot straight draw, hoping to find a deuce.
If I'm holding pocket 5s here and I'm Nas, I love that flop.
Gary is checked over to Nas in the button. Nas, I don't think knows what the word check means. He is going to bet. Looks like 225,000. And Chris, if you're in Doc's position and you even think that Nas is bluffing here, it's pretty tough to play against that size of a stack.
225,000 is the bet by Nas. 225. We go back now.
Yeah, as I said, every time you take on that monster stack, you better be ready to play for every chip you have in front of you, because it's nothing compared to what this chip leader has.
Of course, Nas is not bluffing. He has the best of it right now. Gary with 2 overcards and a gut shot might be considering making the call here.
I think you're the only one I'm going to fold. I could fold this hand too right now. I'm going to fold.
And that's exactly it. He has to give him the respect. If he doesn't respect his cards, he's got to respect the chip stack. Nas does show his pocket 5s. And again, the chip leader just keeps on rolling. Now with over 6 million chips in this final table. Hello and welcome back to the HPT with Fred Bevel. I'm Chris Hansen. It's time for our pro tip of the week with 12-time bracelet winner Phil Hellmuth. Tonight, Phil talks about something Fred and I never have to worry about: common mistakes made at the poker table.
The most common mistake I see at the poker table. Now, I play a lot of tournaments, and I play with a lot of amateurs, especially at the World Series of Poker. 3,000 players playing in a $1,000 buy-in tournament. Heartland Poker Tour, same thing. Semi-pros, some amateurs. The biggest mistake I see is people lose too much money with one pair, particularly without an ace kicker. So the biggest mistake I see is someone calling a raise or a re-raise with Queen Jack suited, having it come Queen 10-4, and then losing their whole stack. That's a sin. You should never lose your whole stack. Yes, you might actually make a great read on someone. Maybe they have ace king. Maybe you've made a great call. And then maybe they actually hit an ace, a king, or a jack and beat you. If you've done that, then don't beat yourself up, because now you're going with the read. But if you're putting in your whole stack, 50 big blinds, 100 big blinds, with just top pair, and you keep going broke, duh.
Fred, I think he says it very succinctly there. Duh.
It's what I say to you almost every cash session we play together.
And by the way, congratulations to Phil Hellmuth. Now 12 World Series of Poker bracelets. That means his lead over you and I is...
Carry the 1.
12.
Yep.
He has 12 more than you and I and pretty much everyone else in poker. The amazing Phil Hellmuth. All right, here's what you need to know. Nas has got what seems like all of the chips in play, and we are playing 5-handed, and blinds have just went up.
20, 40, and a 5K ante are the new blinds. Action's going to start on the very dapper Mr. Eric Worre. He's going to fold over to Paul. He mucks.
Now to Gary. Gary's got King 4 of hearts. It seems like Gary has played about 70 to 80 HPT events in the past couple of years.
We see the Lamberts often on the HPT tour. It's always a pleasure. Still hasn't bought me dinner yet, though.
Still owes me a couple of adjustments, I think.
He's going to limp in with King 4. Nas is going to oblige from the small blind with Jack 6.
And Ed with Queen 9. What's he going to do out of the big blind? He's going to check. So these three players will see the flop on the left side of our table. Seats 1, 2, and 3. And here's the flop. It's 4-10 king.
Well, Gary flops the best of this, hitting 2 pair. Ed's got a gut shot straight draw. Nas, the chip leader, just jack high.
Both Ed and Nas have checked over to Gary. He bet 60,000.
60,000.
Nas gets out of the way, back to Ed.
And now Ed, as I mentioned a second ago, has a gut shot straight draw. He needs a jack. And he is going to make the call.
And the turn is an ace of diamonds.
Gary still has the best hand, but Ed's odds got a little bit better. He's picked up a flush draw to go with his gut shot straight draw. And now Gary is going to make it a little more pricey to see the river. He fires $275,000.
You say all in?
No, I said I've got it. I said, how much is that? And then I said, I've got it.
I almost flipped my cards over. Not folding. I almost flipped them over and called.
And will Ed make the call now? He would have the nut flush if he would find the diamond on the river.
Well, Ed is figuring out what he wants to do. He is going to make the call.
I knew Ed wasn't stacking up all those chips for nothing.
Now the pot is just under $1 million in chips. Gary hoping to fade a jack or a diamond.
And let's see the river. It is another ace. And Ed is first to bet. He checks. Gary quickly checks behind him, shows him his two pair. Ed put a lot of chips in, but missed his draw, and Gary is going to win a pot that is almost $1 million in chips.
Well, Ed's also not considering what bluff outs he might have had there on the river. The ace, in my opinion, is a good bluff out. He could have shoved the whole stack. Gary probably wouldn't have been able to make the call. But instead, Gary stacking over $800,000 in chips.
You could have maybe made a case for Ed to shove the turn. And the ace hit and the third diamond hit, but it didn't work out that way for Ed. Nas is first.
Everybody's bones at that level?
Over to Ed.
This was actually the
7-3
university
offsuit.
took first in the nation.
Right.
We just went as
Guys, we
alumni.
get back to playing poker, please.
Yeah, Life
We've got
University has,
$118,000 to hand
one
out
of the
here
top
tonight.
rugby
You guys are
clubs.
talking about some sports. Let's go. Come on now. This isn't a social
In the
event.
nation.
You should be at each other's
University and
throats.
Super League.
Easy now. Let me remind you, what they're talking about is Doc Lambert representing the United States and the U.S. rugby team. So I wouldn't mess with him if I were you.
Well, why didn't you tell me that earlier before I said all that stuff?
Well, your mouth sometimes moves too fast for me to stop it.
Well, it looks like Eric is going to raise. Makes it $95,000 with ace 9, jack 7 for the very quiet Paul. He folds over to Doc Lambert. My apologies to the doctor.
He's got the Hanson, jack 9.
Love that hand.
And he's going to call the raise from Mr. Worry.
And there's so many times when I try to play jack 9, it's dominated right now, going to the flop.
Check.
Gary is going to check dark, something he's done frequently at this final table.
Here we go. Flop is 3 ace deuce. Action over to Eric.
And Eric has top pair. And Eric looks like he's going to bet his top pair. Makes it $150,000 to go.
150. That's enough. Nice hand.
And Gary is going to fold. You know, Fred, I don't mind people wearing headphones when they play poker, but when you get involved in a hand, shouldn't you be required to at least take them off?
Nice hand.
All right, there we go.
How many times have you been playing and you say something clearly and what did you say? Well, maybe you want to.
Let me remind you, Gary represented the United States on the rugby
I know.
team.
I'm just saying.
I would
okay?
get off of him. That's all I'm saying.
Somebody's got to stand up and say it. Now, if Gary calls me on it next time I see him, I'm going to accuse you of saying it, not me. Because frankly, I don't think he knows the difference. All right.
Action's folding around. Gary folds the button. We're on Nas in the small blind. He's got 5-7 of diamonds.
Make it $4.5 million, Nas. Make it $4.5 million.
He is just going to limp. Boom. And we got 9-7 for the big blind. He checks his option.
Remind you, we are playing the biggest poker tournament in Minnesota poker history. Another proud record for the HPT and another state notched on our bedpost for holding the record for the biggest tournament ever. Flop is 3-6-3.
And Nas has a gut shot straight draw. Ed right now has the best hand with a 9-7 kicker.
They both check. Here comes the turn. It's another 6. And now the board is double paired. Nas bets. Ed folds. That was a pretty small pot for me, says Nas. I like him a little bigger than that. More poker on our way to a $118,000 championship tonight on the HPT.
One of the attractions for the HPT was the blind structure, along with the period of time between change in blinds. Along with, I was really looking for continued challenges and facing better and better poker players, and I think this type of tournament draws really strong field of poker players.
Oh, I love the HPT tournaments. It's a wonderful chance for me to get out and about. they have them every month or so. They're the right size monetarily for me. I don't like to spend a ton of money on a poker tournament, but I don't want to waste my time on a small one either. So HPT fits perfectly for me.
You know, playing in the HPT, actually it's a little different than the tournaments, you know, I'm used to. The structure is good, you know, I like the structure. It's slow, it gives you a little, you know, a little time to play. I like this casino here, it's Canterbury, you know, I play here a lot. So overall, it's been a great experience, actually.
Fred, we might not have 100% customer satisfaction on the HPT, but I guarantee if you come out, you're going to have one heck of a time. And if you don't, frankly, it's your own fault.
Yeah, your fault, not ours. Look at this. Nas now 63% of the chips in play, almost 7 million in chips, and the two short stacks are Paul and Ed, both hanging on a thread here. Action's going to be on Paul.
Paul, I want you to play a hand. I know you can do it. Let's get some chips in the middle. Let's splash around. Let's make something happen, huh?
State Fair trivia.
He must have heard you. He is going to make it 120,000 to go with suited connectors. And he has been playing ultra tight at this final table, not because that's how he is. He's just really been kind of card dead. And you can see the table clearing out to his big raise.
Eric looks down at ace-3 of hearts.
About 450 left.
I think I got more than that. 2, yeah, maybe 2, 3, 4.
Maybe
Yeah, you're
500.
probably about right. About 500. I'll count it for sure if you want.
No, that's all right.
And look at that. Paul, see? Take my advice and you win. Get involved, man. You got a great image at this final table. Doesn't anyone want to take a run at Nas? Is everyone just trying to hold on for a climb up the pay ladder?
Blinds continuing on at 20 and 40,000 with a 5K ante. This time the action is going to start on our favorite chiropractor, Gary Lambert.
10-4 offsuit to the muck. Now to Nas.
Wired nines for the chip leader. He's playing well. He's getting good cards. He's got the chips to push people around.
Raise.
And he is going to raise it up. Makes it 110,000 to go.
What is it says we have a break at 4 I'm starting.
All right. Nas is a 29-year-old student from Mankato, Minnesota.
Ed has gone all in with King 9. Over to Eric. He peels back a king and a 3.
Apparently Edwards just had enough of having Nas on his
I
right.
guess there was like the pasta and
And now pocket 6s for Paul.
All right.
And he is forced to fold.
We go back around now to Gary.
And I think with Ed's chip stack, this is going to be a fairly easy call for Nas. It's only 225,000 to go.
300.
This is just a formality to get the exact number for Nas.
300-ish.
Nas makes the call. He shows his wired nines, and Ed sees he's got one overcard and the clubs. He's hoping for a lot of help here on the fly.
Ed just has that look of a guy who's just getting lucky against him. When you've been playing with the pressure of Nas playing to your right, that's got to be awfully taxing.
I don't.
Best hand.
Congratulations.
Ed's already congratulating Nas on having the best of it.
Here we go. The flop is deuce, 8-5 with a couple of clubs.
Ed's got the flush draw, and he still has a live king. It's not over for him yet.
10 irons.
Nas looks like he could take a nap at any moment.
Go ahead and see the turn card, please.
And the turn is a deuce, and so now it's down to a king or a club, or Ed will be leaving in 5th place. Can he stay alive, or will the chip leader continue to just pound at this final table? The river is a 6. That's going to do it. Ed saw the writing on the wall. He said, I'm either going to double up and try to make a run, or I'm going to catch the early flight out. And that's exactly what he's going to do.
I'm uncomfortable with it. I would have liked to finish deeper, and I thought I was going to finish deeper at one point. My goal is to leverage the money I'm winning to play more tournaments. And it's money to play tournaments, so that's a good thing.
Nas has a big chip lead. Fred, is he going to take this tournament down? Well, we got more poker to play, and we'll get back to it when we come back on the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT. 2 knockouts thus far here tonight at Canterbury Card Casino. Daniel and Edward leaving our final table and leaving most of their chips to our chip leader, Nas.
Almost 7 million of the 10 million chips in play belong to Naz. 69%, 172 big blinds. Chris, everybody else pretty much is playing for second place right now, but you know as well as I do, no limit tournament poker. A lot can change very quickly. Blinds continue at 20 and 40,000 with a 5K ante. Paul, our new short stack, folds deuce 5.
Over to Gary. Gary's got pocket 3s on the button.
I'm going to raise. I'm going to go to 125.
And it looks like Gary's taking the headphones off. Maybe you heard my rant and decided that enough was enough with the music. Either that or the batteries died.
I'm going to go with the batteries. Gary raises it up with the wired 3s, and oh, this could be trouble for the doc. Eric Worre is woken up with the Cowboys.
These two both sitting with almost the identical amount of chips in front of them.
Eric is a network marketing professional, plans on using his prize money to take his dad and brothers to Scotland and Ireland just to go golfing. I know that's near and dear to your heart.
You need a 4th? I'm sitting right here. Eric re-raises to 450,000. Actions back to Gary.
And 50. And the action goes back to the 1 seat.
Big decision here for Gary Lambert. 325,000 to go.
You have 2 more brown stacks.
You got to figure with pocket 3s, you're either crushed or you're racing.
If I was 22, it's an automatic call. But I'm not 22.
You're 24. I know, Gary. Giving a nod to the more aggressive players.
It's about the war, not the battle. I'm going to fold. Nice.
Gary's going to throw the pocket 3s away, and Eric is going to pick 22? Up a pot.
No, not anymore. Another life ago.
23? Eric Worre and Doc Lambert are the 2 contenders to make a run at Nas.
Just barely, but.
And we just heard Gary say it's about the war, not the battle. He's going to get rid of those 3s and wait for a better spot.
Well, this hand will start with Gary folding Jack 5. Back to Nas. He will fold the button. And over to Eric with 8-4 clubs in the small blind.
What's that?
He's going to limp in.
We have an option now to call.
Over to the short stack. Paul, he is going to check his option with 10-3 suited.
Everyone's got some clubs at this final table.
I have trying to be.
No, we have for a day and a half.
And here we go. Blind versus blind. 4-handed. The flop is 4-6 queen.
Eric picks up a pair of 4s on this flop, and it looks like he's going to go ahead and bet him.
If I didn't play with the gentleman yesterday, I wouldn't have made that fold.
That make it 90?
Seemed easier to make a pair
Eric
yesterday.
bets. Paul will fold.
So much easier.
And Eric Worre wins 2 hands in a row.
Momentum definitely going to his side. He's going to need a lot of chips to go with that momentum to catch up to Nas.
That's right.
Nas starts with 3-7 of diamonds.
Chip calisthenics over there.
And he will fold. Back to Eric. King 8 of clubs. On the button.
Raise. Make it 95.
And Eric's going to make it 95,000. Now over to Paul. Paul's got ace-8 of diamonds.
This could be the hand for Paul.
Come on, Paul, you can do it. Come on, buddy. Do it for your 3 daughters. He's got 8-year-old twins and a 6-year-old daughter.
Oh, no wonder he's not going all in. He doesn't want to go home.
He's got 4 women
he
at home.
wants to stay at this poker table.
No, I'd ride the short stack like it was the rented mule. Paul is going to make the call. Actually, Paul's wife Danielle in the crowd watching him play at this final table.
I got a call.
And now Gary is going to call out of the big blind. So Nas will be our odd man out here, as 3 of the 4 players will see this flop together. It's the have-nots, if you would, at this final table, who will all see this flop together.
Those are the lucky ones?
Guys, what do you say we just put all of our chips in the middle on this hand and take a run at Nas? Who's with me? Flop is 10-6 deuce.
Well, Gary flops the best of this. He's hit 2 pair. And he's going to fire 225,000.
225.
That gets rid of Eric, and now back to Paul with just ace high. Paul will fold.
And Paul
was a
is pretty sick of
ridiculous
folding,
flop.
I think.
2 pair out of the big
Hoping someone had aces at
blind.
the
Not
end.
bad
Yeah, thanks.
for Gary Lambert. Okay, Paul, here we go, buddy. Ace 7 offsuit.
All in.
There you go.
Yeah, that away. Get the chips in the middle. Over to Gary.
Everyone at this final table now guaranteed $36,729.
Gary folds. Over to Nas. King 5 of spades. He does have a decision to make here, but Fred, it's about as easy as whether or not I should get out of bed in the morning. I simply have to because I got a job and I need to. But Nas is going to fold.
Please give me a hand.
And Eric is hoping for something here to make the call.
No,
He's
I
got
almost called.
absolutely nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, me crushed.
And Paul
Good
is
fold.
just rolling this final table. Okay, not really, but Fred, the short stack is staying alive. Staying alive.
Almost called.
Nas is playing great poker at this final table, Fred. 4 players remain after our 2 eliminations. We'll have to come back next time to see if Nas can go wire to wire around the track here at Canterbury. Now, do you think you've got what it takes to sit at our final table and win the unreal cash? Well, then log on to HPT Poker to find out about our upcoming events. For James Larson and Fred Bevel, I'm Chris Hansen. We'll see you next time right here on the HPT.